There's a federal banking rule most people call the $10,000 bank rule. And in 2026, for the first time in 55 years, it's being seriously challenged in Washington. Most retirees won't feel that change until it's already touched them. So, before I explain it, do one thing for me. Picture the single largest deposit you made in the last 12 months. A car you sold, cash from downsizing, money that had been sitting in a safe at home. Hold that number, because whether the government already filed a report with your name on it comes down to one word, and it's not the word most people think. Here's what the rule actually is. And one thing to clear up right away, because a lot of people search for this as the IRS 10,000 rule. It isn't quite. It comes from the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970, and the report goes to the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, not the IRS. Anytime more than $10,000 in cash moves through your bank in a single business day, in or out, the bank quietly files a currency transaction report. You don't sign it. You're usually not told. There is a separate IRS 10,000 rule, Form 8300, but that's for businesses receiving cash, not for your bank account. Now hear this clearly, because the fear is misplaced. Depositing more than $10,000 is not illegal. It is not suspicious. It does not put you on a list of wrongdoers. The report is automatic. It fires for a retiree depositing the proceeds of a coin collection exactly the way it fires for anyone else. So why are more retirees tripping it now than ever? Because the line hasn't moved since 1970, while the economy grew up around it. And in a second, you'll see exactly how frozen that number is. The figure genuinely surprises people. Here's the first thing most people miss. By the Bureau of Labor Statistics' own inflation data, $10,000 in 1970 has the buying power of more than $80,000 today. Sit with that. The trigger Congress picked was meant to flag genuinely large, out-of-the-ordinary cash. To match what they had in mind in 1970, the line today would need to be north of 80,000. Instead, it's still 10. A threshold built to catch the unusual now routinely catches the ordinary. A used truck, a roof, a small inheritance in a shoebox. Now the one word, cash. Physical currency, paper, and coin. That's the whole trigger, and this is where worry gets pointed the wrong way. A matured CD rolling into a new account? Not cash, no report. An RMD paid to you by check or direct deposit? Not cash, no report. A Roth conversion, a wire, money between your own accounts? None of it trips this rule. The report only wakes up when actual bills cross the counter, or when you buy something like a cashier's check with a stack of cash. So most of what retirees fear here never triggers anything at all. So who actually trips it? Picture something ordinary. You sell your late father's pickup for $12,000 in cash, drive to the bank, deposit it, and go home. That's the whole event. By end of day, a report with your name, address, social security number, and date of birth has been filed. For selling a truck. Now the scale. Banks file roughly 20 million of these every year. 20 million. The vast majority describe nothing but people moving their own money. Keep that number in mind. In a moment, you'll see why the system's own reviewers now ask whether it's drowning in noise. Here's where it gets expensive, and the part I most want you to remember. The report costs you nothing, but there's a way to turn a harmless deposit into a federal crime, and people do it by accident trying to be careful. It's called structuring. Take that $12,000 and deliberately split it, 6 today, 6 next week, specifically to stay under the 10,000 line, and that breaking up is itself illegal, whether or not the money was perfectly clean. This is the opposite of a tip. It's the thing to never do. The fix is almost insultingly simple. Deposit it once, let the automatic report file, and keep a record of where it came from. Let me lay it side by side, because this distinction is the entire game. On the left, what merely triggers paperwork? A big cash deposit. Annoying maybe, but harmless. The bank files, life goes on. On the right, what triggers a criminal case? Deliberately arranging deposits so the bank can't file. One is a transaction, the other is a decision to hide a transaction. The government doesn't prosecute the cash, it prosecutes the hiding. Get that one line right, and you've understood 90% of this rule. So, why now? And is there a new IRS 10,000 bank rule, like you may have searched? Honestly, no. The cash report itself is 55 years old. What's actually new is two separate things in 2026. First, on April 7th, FinCEN proposed the biggest rewrite of these anti-money laundering rules in years. But that's about how banks run their programs. It does not change the 10,000 number. Second, a Senate bill called the STREAMLINE Act proposes raising the threshold to 30,000 and finally indexing it to inflation. Here the bright line, 30,000 is a proposal, not law. Today the number is still 10,000, and everything here is education, not advice. Run your own numbers. Here's the bigger problem. Step back from any one deposit and look at 20 million reports a year, every year, for decades. That isn't really a rule about cash anymore. It's a standing record of how ordinary Americans move money, built on a line so outdated it sweeps in millions of transactions it was never meant to see. The reviewers studying this in 2026 are saying it plainly. A threshold frozen at 1970 levels produces a flood of noise, and noise doesn't catch criminals. It just records the rest of us. That's the real story underneath the number. And there's one place this lands hardest, where I watch good people stumble, settling an estate. When a parent passes, heirs often find cash in a safe, in envelopes, tucked around a home, and the instinct to spread it across several small deposits so it looks normal is exactly the structuring trap we just drew. Innocent intent, criminal act. So let me give you the calm version with a quick example. Realistic example. Tom and Linda, both 62. Tom's mother passes, and clearing her house, they find $14,000 cash in a dresser. Linda's first instinct, deposit $7,000 at one bank, $7,000 at another, so nobody asks questions. However kind the motive, that's structuring, a federal crime. The right move is the boring one. Deposit the full $14,000 in a single transaction. Let the bank file its automatic report and write one line down. Cash found settling mom's estate, with the date. That note is their entire defense, and they'll almost certainly never need it. The report was never the danger. Secrecy was. So put all three together. 1. The 10,000 bank rule is triggered by cash, not by checks, wires, or your CD and IRA paperwork. So most of what people fear doesn't even apply. 2. The line is stuck at a 1970 number that today should be north of 80,000, which is why ordinary retirees keep tripping it. 3. The only real danger isn't the report. It's the honest mistake of breaking deposits up to avoid it. Understand those three, and a rule that frightens most people becomes one you navigate without a second thought. And watch the calendar. As of 2026, the threshold is still $10,000, and structuring is still a crime. Both facts you can rely on today. The 30,000 proposal and the FinCEN rewrite are worth following, but they're tomorrow's maybe, not today's rule. So plan around the 10,000 line, deposit honestly, keep proof of where money came from, and let the automatic paperwork be the bank's job, not your worry. If this cleared up something that's quietly nagged at you, there's more where it came from. I break down one retirement rule like this each week, plain English, no pitch. Subscribe, and the next one will be waiting. And I'd like to know, What's a money rule you've always been told but never had explained? Leave it in the comments and it may be the next board I draw. Until then, deposit honestly, keep your paper, and don't let a 1970 number push you into a mistake it was never meant to cause.